You crossed your legs, your eyes as bright as lanterns in a dark forest. Your mother had insisted you always have your red coat, loved for 2 generations, so she said. It was supposedly cashmere. It was soft, you never denied that. What you had not appreciated was the connotations. Little Red Riding Hood went through the wood. She met a wolf and he was good. Surprisingly, the other children did not draw this comparison, and you never once received a single direct comment about Little Miss Riding Hood. There was hardly ever anything said either that could have been taken as an allusion to the ancient nursery rhyme. Instead, it was your own casting, your own daydream and invention that took the red coat and made it a source of fascination. You threaded your own stories about what the coat meant and imbued it with deep significance that the world around you seemed ignorant of. When finally the loo became vacant, you uncrossed your legs and crossed the room almost on your heels, or at least dragging your heels. Inside the dark cube of a toilet, you noticed first the smell. The room smelt like dried blood and grapefruit. You scrawled down your pants and tights while shivering, finding it too difficult. You tried to remove your coat, but one side under the buttons brushed your legs by mistake, and you noticed how it became wet. I think soggy. The blood was difficult to see on the red fabric. You hung the coat on the back of the door, which covered the old cracked mirror. You sat on the loo with your knees together, then with one leg on top of the other, finally with both knees raised above your hips and in your hands. You heard the choir start up just a little way along the corridor. You closed your eyes and made out the beginnings of barks. Barme Dick Ingot from St. Matthew's Passion. The music painted pictures in your mind. You as Little Red Riding Hood, tiptoeing through the wood. Your basket full, soon to be empty. You opened your eyes and sighed. You flushed the loo, stood up and straightened yourself. You leant with one hand on the sink and the other on a smaller mirror and the other on a smaller mirror above it. You washed yourself, dabbed your brow and delicately wet your hair. You slipped back into choir practice, joining in at your usual position at the back. Constance, the red-headed maestro, discreetly took your hand in hers and gripped it. When the choir master paused between pieces, she glanced at you. 4 eyes glimmered in light and knowing. She gave the faintest of nods and the sweetest of smallest smiles and another tender grip of your hand. She never let go of you as you sung, so that it felt that the two of you sung Come Sweet Death together alone in some dark chapel on a hill, where in the graveyard an old apple tree leant down in the wind and rain, but stroked the floor to offer the first ripe fruit of autumn. All around it, the first brown leaves gathering. Missing home, you often sat in your dormitory and played board games, playing both sides. You pitted instinct versus memory. Sometimes you pretended it was violence versus justice. You drafted short poems about something being nothing, about desert landscapes, abandoned ancient ruins and modern theatres. You embodied great choruses and heroic characters, and occasionally you brought out the gods and goddesses. Those games stood as megalithic stones in your mind. In the clearest moments they aligned perfectly in stone circles and made a sanctuary for you at the centre. Here you could replay much of your childhood as if it were being projected onto an altar in the middle of the circle and yourself. You felt at times that you could pray with your hands backwards and replay your life forwards. You tried to write this out to make sense of it. I sit as a projector of my own images. My life moves backwards whilst coming forwards. You could not get at it. But there were plenty of times when later in life the image provided solace. Once sat in St. James's Church in the middle of the day, almost empty, as silent as the centre of London could offer, you felt yourself as silent as London could be. Almost empty, as silent as the centre of London could be, you felt yourself fall, so to the kneel. Yourself fall to the knees, to your knees. You fall, so to kneel, as though a puppet on a string, and you spoke aloud the image that you had had. No one heard you, or they pretended they had not, even though it had echoed through the building like a storm against glass. As you were leaving, the organ struck up Janine Demisio, Attendira Domine. The countryside came into view, and you wanted nothing more than warm, freshly baked bread and hot chocolate. While studying for your masters, you joined a group called Nightline. Here you would sit with 10 others, right into the night, and answer the anonymous calls, looking for, right into the morning, and answer the anonymous calls looking for a voice with the right timbre to take their troubles and tenderize them until they resembled dark clouds parted by beams of light. There were hours where nobody rang, not a single chime on the phones, so hours to play board games, and with others to play the other parts. Years of playing alone had made you oddly competitive whenever faced with flesh and blood competition. Do that line again. Years of playing alone had made you oddly competitive whenever faced with flesh and blood competition.